Every tribe on Absinthian has the same origin story, the same apocrypha retold with new names and a liberal dose of superstitious paranoia. That once our people came from the stars, that their home world was lost, swallowed by wormwood, and the ancestors built the arks in a last desperate gasp, releasing them to the sky like so many seeds in the wind. That sin brought the colony ark Absinthus to ground. That the people of the ark, so roughly deposited on the soil of an alien Eden, farmed and fought and prayed and plotted, so they might rule this new world and remake it in their own image. Wormwood is a card game where each player controls a burgeoning far future society at the brink of war. You will build an empire from the ground up, starting with one of 8 factions. Your goal is to collect echoes in any way you can. If you ever have 12, you will win the game. Units will defend your cards and allow you to steal echoes from your opponents. Facilities can be worked by your citizens and offer permanent growth to your civilization. Augments are attached to your units to make them stronger or hamper your enemy's units. Finally, reflexes grant you immediate effects at any time, even during an opponent's turn. Your culture is represented by a deck composed of 30 echoes and 30 unique cards, along with a faction card and a citadel card, which go on the right and left of their deck respectively. This is the creche, a pool of citizen tokens that will be your resources. Each token has 2 sides, a golden talent and a grey drone. In this sample game, the Windwalker clans are facing the War Tribe Dominion. Each player has placed their faction card to the left of their deck and their citadel card to the right. Before their first turn, each player has drawn 8 cards. Windwalkers go first and begin their turn with the growth phase. They draw 2 talents from the creche and place them on their citadel card. This concludes the growth phase. Next is the upkeep phase, but as they have no cards to upkeep, this phase is skipped on the first turn. Then comes the forge phase. Here, the player may play cards from their hand face down to the right of their citadel in order to forge them. She places 2 echoes from her hand into the forge and places a talent from her citadel on the space along the forge track on the back of each card. Since each echo has a cost of 2, it will take until the next turn to forge them to completion. Since she is out of talents, she ends her forge phase. The battle and move phases are skipped since she does not have any units in play. The final phase is the research phase, and here she draws back up to 8 cards, ending her turn. The War Tribe Dominion begins their turn. They start with the growth phase, drawing 2 talents from the creche. They also skip their upkeep as they have no cards to upkeep now. In their forge phase, they play the Iron Oni, a unit, and the Flamer Crew, another unit. Both of these cards cost more than 1, so they end their forge phase, skipping their battle and moving phases. Since they have no units in play, they finish with the research phase by drawing back up to 8 cards. Now it is the Windwalkers' second turn. They draw 2 talents for their growth phase. Moving to the upkeep phase, they move each talent in their forge 1 space along the forge track on the back of each card. Since each echo has a cost of 2, these echoes are now scored. The talents on the back of each card are returned to the citadel, and the echoes are placed in a stack in front of the deck. In the forge phase, she plays Lightning Fields, a facility, Grendel, a unit, and 1 echo, moving a talent from her citadel to each card. she has one talent left over, so she decides to accelerate the Grendel by flipping the talent to its drone side, which decreases the cost of Grendel by 1. She skips her battle and move phase since she has no units, and finishes her turn by drawing back up to 8 cards. On the War Tribe's second turn, they draw 2 talents in their growth phase. During their upkeep, they move their Forge talents up 1 space, which completes the payment for their unit, but it will remain face down until they choose to reveal it in the Forge phase. They accelerate their Iron Oni unit by 1, flipping a talent on their Citadel. Now they flip Flamer Crew, and like all non-Echo cards, this flips the Forge talent as well, which is returned to their Citadel. Flamer Crew is placed in a lane above their Citadel, along with 2 drones added from the Citadel for health. Flamer Crew has a maximum health of 3, but since there are only 2 drones available, it will not come into play with maximum health. It has an attack of 2, an armor of 2, and the ability to deal 2 extra damage to the unit type Lifeform. Finally, an Echo is played from their hand to the Forge. Moving to the battle phase, the War Tribe decides to attack the Windwalker's Forge with their Flamer Crew. Because there are no units defending, the Flamer Crew uses its full attack of 2, and as a result, the War Tribe player gets to look at 2 cards in the opposing Forge. He chooses the 2 cards that have not advanced, as these are the only cards that have a chance of being Echoes. The cards are flipped, but only one is an Echo. The other card is returned to the Forge face down, and the Echo is stolen and scored. The talent from the stolen Echo is returned to the owner's Citadel. Scored Echoes may never be retaken by players. The Flamer Crew is returned to its lane, and the battle phase ends. The War Tribe does not choose to move a unit this turn, so finishes their turn by drawing up to 8. On their third turn, the Windwalkers take their growth and upkeep phases, finishing both the facility Lightning Fields and the unit Grendel. The Lightning Fields are placed to the left of the faction card and give a bonus to a card in the Forge when worked by drones. The Grendel is placed in a lane defending the Forge and gets 2 health from the Citadel. She then places a 6-cost augment in the Forge, along with a 2-cost unit. She flips a talent to accelerate and thus forges the Spore Weevils, and they come into play in the back of any lane. She chooses to place them behind the Grendel, and 2 drones are moved to the Spore Weevils. The final drone is moved to the Lightning Fields facility, activating its ability. This moves a Forge talent up 1 space. In the battle phase, she chooses to use both units in the Forge lane to attack the enemy hand. Since there are no opposing units, she looks at a number of cards equal to the total attack value, 3 attack for Grendel, and 1+1 for each health from the Spore Weevils, due to the squad ability. This makes a total attack of 6. She looks at 6 cards and receives a total of 2 Echoes, which she scores. The attacking units are returned to their lanes, and she skips her move phase, drawing and ending her turn. It is the War Tribe's third turn. After growth and upkeep, they accelerate the first card in their Forge, finishing both. They reveal an Echo, and the unit Iron Oni, which is placed in the Forge lane behind Flamer Crew, along with 2 health. The Iron Oni has 1 attack, 2 health, and 2 armor, and the Pierce ability, meaning it ignores the enemy armor in battle. 2 more cards are added to the forge, and then the battle phase begins. He chooses to attack the undefended enemy hand for a total of 3 attack. Luckily, he receives 2 echoes for the trouble and scores them. After the units are returned to their lane, he decides to move the Flamer crew in his move phase. He moves them to the back of the lane defending his hand, then draws 4 cards to end his turn. The Windwalkers respond by using every talent at their disposal to accelerate the augment in their forge. With another use of the lightning fields, the augment is complete, and viral weaponry is revealed and attached to the spore weevils. They also play Absinthian Psychology, which is a reflex, to the table. Its cost of 2 is paid by placing 2 drones from the Citadel on the card. It adds 1 attack and 1 armor to all lifeform units and will continue until it's discarded on the Windwalker's next upkeep. During the battle phase, all the units in this lane are used to attack the enemy hand. All lifeforms have 1 additional attack and armor from Absinthian Psychology, so the Grendel deals 4 damage and receives 4 damage due to the Flamer crew's ability. The 3 armor on the Grendel absorbs all but 1 damage from the defense, while the Flamers take 2 health damage and must be discarded. Since there are no defenders left, they look at 6 cards from the opponent, but they only receive 1 echo. Finally, the Grendel is moved to defend the hand, and they end their turn. The War Tribe has 2 cards in the forge when their turn begins, and during upkeep they complete the Military Academy facility along with 1 echo. Military Academy can restore the health of units by working it with talents. He follows this by forging 2 more cards and accelerating one of them, the augment Powered Armor. He augments the Iron Oni, which gives it +1 attack and +1 armor. In the battle phase, he attacks the enemy hand with the augmented Iron Oni. The Grendel still has +1 attack and armor from the Absinthian Psychology, so it has 4 attack versus the Oni's augmented 3 armor. The Grendel takes lethal damage and is discarded, while the Oni takes 1 health damage. The Oni has 2 attack unopposed and looks at 2 cards. 1 is an echo and is scored. The attackers return to their lane. The War Tribe decides to use their faction ability, which is activated the same as a facility. They use all 3 available drones to activate it, which allows the faction card to become a unit with 3 health to defend their hand. They draw and end the turn. During the Windwalker's upkeep, she returns the drones from their reflex to the Citadel and discards the card. Then 1 citizen from each facility is returned to the Citadel, in this case 1 drone from the lightning fields. They play 2 cards to their forge and work the now idle lightning fields with 3 drones to finish the unit Shroud. The last 2 drones are used as health for this unit, which has 3 attack, 1 armor, and the blink ability. Then they use their spore weevils to attack the enemy hand. The War Tribe faction card is now a unit with 3 health, but the spore weevils have 3 attack and only take 1 damage. With no opposition, they look at 2 cards and score 1 echo. Finally, they finish their turn and draw. This concludes the example game. If 1 player reaches 12 scored echoes, they will win the game and thus control the world of Absinthian.